Yeah, wood day again. I think it takes. I need about five cord to make it through the winter, and that's with a really energy efficient furnace. Depending on the winter, I mean, before I was able to save up and purchase a a modern efficient stove, I used to go through at least seven cord. So here we have the Crown. The Crown has decided to, well, they haven't outright just come out and kicked us out of the bush. They're signing over public lands to private societies, private corporate societies that are now gating up our public lands. Here it's called the, we have thousands and thousands and thousands of acres called the community forest, and now it's been given over to, somehow was given over to this private society. They've received a whack of public money. They've gotten quite rich, and they've gated off. Now you can't go get a key. So you're up at, say you're up at 5 and you're off in the bush at 6:30 to forage for necessities of life. And well, if that key's not back by 5, then they refuse to give you the key again. Well, I mean, you may not get out of there till 8 at night, until sundown. And I mean, what if you just wanted to trek up and do a little bit of camping and fishing? Well, you got to run in and out every day instead of spending a few days. So the Crown has also decided that, well, you can only stay on public land, what they're calling Crown land. Okay, they're claiming it as their land. I don't know who this Mr. and Mrs. Crown is or thinks they are, but this is public land. This belongs to the people of this land, not you. Right? And if you can claim that, then I would like to see Mr. or Mrs. Crown go into a court of record, trial by jury, that only falls under the common law, where the magistrate is independent of the tribunal, and swear under oath or affirmation that this public land is their land and they're letting us use their land. I don't think so. See, and so, you do realize, and I think most folks know that that the UN has mandated 30% of all our lands adjoining fresh and salt water, no matter who lives on it. So our native cousins aren't safe either. They're just going to take it. And the UN believes they own Canada now because of our ignorance and laziness and stupidity on our part, or our lack of critical thinking on our part, our refusal to stand, because we're so busy caught up trying to make it day to day that we don't even have the time to stand for all our intrinsic rights, all our inalienable rights that belong to us by nature. We can't afford to spend the time to stand because we're not making 10 grand a month to run a UN agenda. We're not receiving a $300,000 a year public expense account off the resources of our land. The resources of this land are the people's patrimony. Okay, that belongs to the people. That belongs to every man and woman who hails from this land. And I have a bunch of native friends scattered throughout Canada, so they're not all the same tribe from the same area. They have different languages, and some of them have same kind of languages but different dialects. Like if you take our Quebec cousins, they speak in a certain dialect of French, but Northern New Brunswick speaks in a certain dialect of French, and of course Parisian French is totally a different dialect of French. So it's the same thing with our native cousins here, and depending on which part of the land their mothers ate from and where that they were born from, right? Think of it this way. When a woman does bore a child, or does bore a baby, right? And I'm not saying birth, because, corporations are birthed, okay? Ships are birthed, and ships are corporate entities for the most part. Corporations are births. People are born. And so when that matriarch, that mother, bores their child, that's, think of it, you're coming from this land to stand on this land. And only mankind has a right to stand. Now, we can't go back to the old ways, but we can correct our forefathers' misgivings and mistakes by not allowing it to happen again. We need to honor our native cousins. We need to honor those when the fiddle met the drum, and lack of a better term, that the white man fell in love with the beautiful Indian princess, like David Thompson. Or, we need to honor those descendants, because that was the coming together of a nation. That was the coming together of a new nation. The world had shrunk. The explorers were coming. That's all there was to it. It doesn't matter. There was a race on, mostly throughout Europe, to explore the new world, and so it was all coming. It was coming down the pike. It wasn't anything that anybody could have really changed. So here we are today, as a nation, and within this nation, we have mankind, and each one unique, and each one the same. All of us are the same, and all of us are unique. This is why I'm totally against, well, that's not the only reason I'm totally against class action lawsuits, because if you're thrown under the bus, how the lefties like to, throw their own under the bus. If they did something wrong, it's gonna taint them, as a rule. Well, that just happens way too much, man. Oh man. I just lost my train of thought, just thinking of all the clown acts that get all the media coverage that we're all supposed to take serious, and how they're pushing these propaganda agendas through our schools. Well, schools that are publicly funded but run by private crown corporations. So it's all wrong. I went to a meeting one time and they wanted to close down a school, and I said, well, hang on a second. Why are we closing down the school? Well, we can't afford it. Well, hang on a second, we're almost 50% taxed here. Anybody look at their land taxes lately? Yeah, no shit, eh? So it's waste of money. We've allowed our public servants to waste our money. We've allowed public service just to grow. I mean, if the government is the biggest employer of the nation, of this land, we're done. We're done. There is no economy. We're just done. I'm going to vote for Max. I'm going to give Max a chance. At this time, with the access to our public court buildings and our access to a proper court of record trial by jury that only falls under the common law, where the magistrate is independent of the tribunal, with the being so hard to access now because our own fault as a nation, as a people. Yeah, we're pretty much run by the UN now. Now, don't forget, the UN pays, like our African cousins, and some of the smaller dictatorships and stuff. The UN pays that body of government to make sure that these folks cannot develop their own lands. Okay, they cannot develop as a nation. And I was watching a thing. A lady did on this one country, I forget which country it was, but they got so much so many rules and regulations that pretty much even a man who wishes to make shoes locally and sell them, okay, a cobbler, somebody with talent that can make shoes and sell them locally and employ, that the rules for any little business are so obscure that they can't afford to operate. You know, and so this is the legal society over there, running their people in the ground by a UN agenda. We need to get out of the UN, folks. We should just pull out of that. There's no reason for us to be there. There's no reason for that one world government. We need to, if we can't take care of our own household, how the hell are we supposed to take care of anybody else's? I believe the crimes of our public servants are so great upon our people, our nation, and our culture that you know, it would take it would probably take a lot of great minds and a lot of hours that none of us can afford to put in, because we're working 2 or 3 jobs and running around the countryside to just make it, to just get by, to keep a roof over your head, which is exactly where they want you. It's not in Trudeau's best interest, Green's best interest, Singh's best interest, Scheer's best interest. It's not in their best interest for us to have a great economy, for us to be self-sufficient people, a self-sufficient nation, because then we don't need large government, you know? And so what they do is they've twisted everything around, our little Frankensteins, and they've twisted all around and forced us to need them. This is wrong, guys. You know, you ever hear the saying, a promise made is a debt unpaid? We need a law in which one of these wannabe kings of Canada are going to pass a law or pass a bill that if a politician during the election makes a promise, they're liable to keep it on their own personal liability. No crown immunity for them. No crown immunity. You make a promise to the people. We wish, or I wish, and I'm sure there's a lot of us that wish to have this put into law. So I want, okay, here's my 3 wishes, guys. I wish an ethics officer, okay, ethics commissioner, to be elected every 6 years, and to have complete access to anything he or she needs, Privy Council or not. And the ethics commissioner can be the one who decides what can the public see or cannot see. And the ethics commissioner cannot accept outrageous expense accounts, no gifts, no partisanship whatsoever. I think the guy that the ethics commissioner, I don't know who picked him or how that worked exactly, but I think he did a great job. That's one of my wishes. So we have to keep our government, we have to keep the dog on a tether. It doesn't have to be completely short tether. Well, it probably will be for the first while to get our country straightened out. But we need to keep these guys on a leash. They have to be accountable to the people. And right now we have a class of persons, an elite 1%, that are not accountable to the people. We need basic paperwork. When you go into or within a public court building, we need basic paperwork so that we may file a court of record, trial by jury, that only falls under the common law, where the magistrate is independent of the tribunal. Right? We need that straight up. We need that also back into, you know, if somebody is being charged, okay? We need that if somebody is being charged by the establishment, so that our peers from our neighborhood, which, like I say, we have a culture diversity here that has grown together for hundreds of years, okay? We need that so that we can have a proper set of our peers from the neighborhood to which we are charged to either find you guilty or not guilty, and have the aspect of freedom to take a look at and say, well, this is a bad law. This is a bad law and should have never gone through. So that's my second wish. And my third wish is an elected Senate. You know, maybe do these guys every 6 years as well. And with the equal amount of senators from each area, you know, what do we need? 1? Maybe 2? And just to add a little icing on the cake, I wish for a cap on salaries and expense accounts for all and any public servants. We have technology. You don't need to jet set on our dime. You don't need to see there. See, you've created a limited amount of fuel now by attacking our natural resource sector to keep us barefoot and pregnant and walking in the dirt and eating bugs. That we can't afford to share our fuel because you're only privileged. It's a privilege for you to run on our tax dollar. It's a privilege for you to use our natural resources as a person, as a part of the corporate body politic, okay, as a person of some kind of organ or society or like, you know, whatever, you know, but as a public representative especially, you are privileged. We have privileged you to certain things, and now that we're having a fuel shortage constructed by you, now we have to take that back. You guys get some of those communist-made slave labor Chinese TVs, and you use Skype, and you can talk on Skype, and we might even allow somebody to come in to make sure that you know, you're encrypted. So you know, so you still have to feed China our trade secrets and our national secrets, and the UN our national secrets, the old-fashioned way, so that you're not, you know, that you're not hacked. Because that's what you're doing, people. We're not fools. There's a lot of traitors that operating on privileges that we've allowed this class of persons to operate, and it needs to get shut down. This election is a turning point. We're at a cusp, so let's give Max a chance. I'm voting Max. Yay!